And T.S. Eliot wrote another poem called The Wasteland, which I won't have you read for this class because it's really kind of hard to follow. But Pound edited The Wasteland, so they're very close friends, and they're both working on a new kind of poetry at this time in the modernist era, or in the modern era. It's a modernist kind of poetry called imagism, okay, which is really, well, it's In a Station of the Metro is an exemplary poem of imagism. The apparition of these faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough. The apparition of these faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough. Normally I would, take time and we would go through and try to figure it out, but I'll just kind of decipher the poem for you. He was in the metro. What's the metro?
Subway bus. Transportation.
Subway station, yes. In the city, and at this time, if you go into the city, you don't wear, like, I would never wear this into the city, and if you ever go to the city, don't wear white tennis shoes, they'll get ruined in a day. You wear dark clothes because of all the soot and everything. So everybody's dressed in dark clothes, black raincoats, hats, all of that, and it's been raining. And so he sees, if you see a crowd of people dressed in dark clothes, what are you going to see if you're walking through a crowd?
They're just their faces.
Just their faces, right. Just their faces in the crowd. So, and they're going by so quickly, so can you really focus on those faces and know them? Not really. So it's just the apparition of these faces in the crowd, and it seems creepy and spooky. Even the next line can sound really dark and gloomy with petals on a wet black bough. And normally, I don't know, our weather's been weird this year, but think about when the pear trees bloom on the loop out here, and you're going, ooh, just petals on a wet black bough. But Pound is also interested in Asian art. And if you think about the way that, if you think about those Asian pictures of just like cherry blossoms, or you get just a branch, some branches and just the blooms, and you don't have leaves all over, they're really beautiful. It's a kind of aesthetic, it is an aesthetic. Ascetic is like asceticism, people who give up a lot, they live very simply, like hermits in the desert who are seeking God, will just, they'll go to the desert and just, they leave everything behind and all they do is pray. So that is an ascetic, which is A-S-C-E-T-I-C, ascetic, A-S-C-E-T-I-C. Not to be confused with the word aesthetic, which is A-E-S-T-H-E-T-I-C. Not to be confused with aesthetic, which is like the study of beauty and art and that sort of the study of beauty, or aesthetics. But it is an ascetic vision that's simplified, just down to the minimal. It's kind of minimalist. And so just the same way that you just get the petals on a wet black bough, that's beautiful. It's beautiful and loud, but there's nothing else there to be in contrast with. You just get the beauty of those petals. And he's saying the same sort of thing as what he saw with those faces as they were coming to him in that crowd. And the people are covered with a little bit of rain, probably because it's been raining. And so petals on a wet black bough. That just gives you an image. Just the same way that in the video, when you look at the beginning of the video, and it's on Facebook, on our group, it's the Michael Jackson video. If you look at that and don't listen to the sound, you know where you are. You know a lot about your setting, even though it's just simple images, like the fire that's in the big barrel. That tells you that it's urban, because it's in a street. It's probably not a wealthy part of town. The woman is dropped off with the little taxi, the bicycle taxi. I can't remember what they're called. What do you call it to her? Rickshaw, yes. So she's riding in a rickshaw instead of a nice taxi cab or a limousine, right? She's dropped off in a rickshaw. It's in Chinatown. the colors even that pervade those images, the scenes, are reds and yellows. It's dark outside, so you know what kind of area you're in, and the reds and the yellows tell you that there's passion and kind of fire in this area, that sort of thing, which leads to the story of the pursuit of the girl and all of that. So you can get these things in these real quick images. Now, these real quick images that you get, you can also see, say, in commercials today, like the Lever 1000 commercials or whatever, where you get an elbow and a knee and an ear and a nose, and then suddenly you get soap suds on someone's hands. Well, you know it's a soap commercial, right? So even though we haven't said, oh, it's a commercial for soap, but it's that Lever 1000 thing where it can wash 1,000 parts of your body, whatever. So all of this kind of starts with this idea that you can just put fragments together, and that's what we get in Proofrock. So if you can look at Proofrock, I want someone, Ben gets to read. Okay, just read, whoops, not Pound, Ezra Pound, and this is called Imagism, and an aesthetic sense is what he's talking about. Okay, you don't have to read the Italian part, that's okay. But I want you to read down to, let me just read what's up here. Hang on. Let me get it to where it's, there you go. Okay. Can you film him reading this?
Mm-hmm.
Aha, he would be immortalized in cyberspace.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread on against the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights and one-night cheap hotels, and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells, streets that follow like a tedious argument. Insidious intent to lead you to an overwhelming question. Oh, do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit. In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. The yellow fog that rubs it back upon the window panes, the yellow smoke that rubs it muzzle on the window panes, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening, linger upon the pools that stand in drains. Let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys. Slipped by the terrence, made a sudden leap, and seen that it was soft October night, curled once upon the house and fell asleep. And indeed there will be time for the yellow smoke and slides along the street. Rubbing its back upon the window panes, there will be time, to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create. And time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Time for you and time for me. And time yet for 100 indecisions and for 100 visions and revisions before the taking of toast and tea.
2 more lines.
In the room the women come and go, taking of Michelangelo. And indeed there will be time to wonder, do I dare and do I dare?
Okay. Now, what is the title? Somebody tell me. Heidi, what's the title of the poem? Doesn't that just sound like a great love poem? Wouldn't you just love it if your boyfriend came up to you and said, let us go then, you and I, while the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient etherized upon a table?
No.
Creeped out.
I probably laugh.
Either laugh at him or
I'd
be down.
ask him. He was drunk.
Weird.
he didn't enjoy it on the bar at the video.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, but remember, he's using kind of stark language to create an image in our minds, a stark image in our minds that we want to have some kind of an emotional response to, right? So, what is, okay, if you're thinking that you're reading a love poem, let us go then, you and I, while the evening is spread out against the sky. How do you feel so far?
It's pretty.
Pretty, yeah, you can handle that. While the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient etherized upon a table. What is a patient etherized upon a table?
You strapped down.
Okay. What is ether?
Knocked out.
What? Knocked out, yes. It's a anesthesia. Yeah, it's what they would put the patient to sleep with before they would do surgery. So it's ether, when you're etherized, you're totally unconscious. And what kind of table is it?
A surgical table.
Pardon?
Like a hard surgical table.
Hard surgical table, and I have enough images of hospitals, it's probably metal and cold.
It could be metal.
Ugh, right? So how does that sound? I mean, the evening is spread out like this, so that the evening is just numb and cold, and there's no compassion or feeling, right? It's dead to a certain, almost dead anyhow. It's might as well because it's completely out. So, like a patient etherized upon a table. Now, where is he going with his beloved, it seems like?
Walking through these back alleys to a hotel.
Okay, this is a question. Okay, he's going through back alleys, certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights. What's there? Are they going to this place, or are they going past this
Okay,
place?
maybe pass.
Yeah, because it's through the deserted streets of restless nights and one night. What's a one-night cheap hotel?
It's for a one-night stand.
A one-night stand, yes. And sawdust restaurants with oyster shells. What's the business of what is a sawdust restaurant?
Kind of back
Like an
there.
oyster bar. Okay, because the floor has sawdust and oyster shells.
Cheap little bar, you go eat oyster.
Yeah. Okay, so it's
A
like
hole
it's
in the wall.
hole in the wall kind of place. Streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent. So it's like somebody's arguing. It's like it reminds me of Venice. I took a group of students to Italy. We went to Venice. Don't ever wander off by yourself in Venice. You may not be able to get out of Venice because you can't unless you go across, you have to, it's water surrounds it. So, you can't get lost forever in the middle of nowhere. But you may find your way through this maze of streets that, the buildings are just so high, and you've got these teeny little alleyways, and they just turn and go off here, there, and yonder, and you can get totally lost and never find your way out. It's like a maze, like super maze. And so it's this, they follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent to lead you to an overwhelming question. Do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit. What is the question? What is the question going to be? And you want to put that in your notes in your book or something. What is that question going to be? Let us go and make our visit. Now, here's this imagist business, okay? We've got the creepy kind of part of town where it's kind of dangerous and you're going one-night cheap hotels and all that. And now, in the room, the women come and go talking of Michelangelo. Are the women in the one-night cheap hotel?
No, I think it's probably women that they pass, like that are just in conversation with each other.
Okay, so they're in the room. The women, are they inside at this point? Are you and I in the room? No, they're still walking. So who are these women that are in a room?
Bad women.
Well, they talk about Michelangelo. Why? Okay, right out there, who are they and why are they talking about Michelangelo? Then, so it's just this image. Is it the same place that we were? Are we in the same place? Are we in the same place up here in the first stanza as in these two lines down here with the Michelangelo lines? It's two different places. Okay, then the yellow fog that rubs its... Why yellow fog?
They get eerie and icky.
It's what?
Isn't it like referring to the toxic ether?
Kind of toxic, yeah. It's gross. It's dirty fog, right? It's I mean, if you think about
Like smog.
smog, it's more smog, yeah. And at this time, early 1900s, you still got, chimneys and things that are not high enough with factories and stuff, so that whatever goes out of the chimney comes back down with the fog, and it's just gross. So it's the yellow smoke. The yellow fog rubs its back upon the window panes. The yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes. Licked its tongue into the corners of the evening, lingered on the pools that stand in drains. What are pools that, what do you see when you see a pool that stands?
Just a puddle of rainwater in front of a drain street.
Yeah. Should it stand in the drain?
No, it probably should go in.
It really ought to go down, but maybe the drain is clogged up, so it's really gross and dirty. It's like, you wake up tomorrow morning and you didn't wash those dishes, so it's what's been sitting in the kitchen sink all overnight. Yuck. So it's gross. And so, lingered upon the pools that stand in drains, let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys, slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. And it's talking about the fog here, but the fog is also kind of an image of a cat. It's like the cat curls up around the house. And then we get, and indeed there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window panes. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create, for all the works and days that lift and drop a question on your plate, for you, for me. Before the taking of a toast and tea, in the room the women come and go talking of Michelangelo. Where are they going?
Away from here.
Pardon?
Away from wherever they are.
Away. Okay, so they come through those streets, the insidious intent, blah, 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 streets of one night. Okay, and then where are they heading? He says, well, there will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet.
I don't know. I think he's insane.
What?
That's kind of what he sounds like.
Hang on, wait.
Or to gain acceptance.
To gain acceptance, do you ever prepare a face to meet faces that you will meet? Getting ready in the morning, exactly. And you get ready in a certain way to present yourself to the world as a kind of person, right? Like, I would love to just come in here in jeans and a t-shirt most days, but I can't do that because I teach. And so it's like no fun. But anyhow, so it's like you have to prepare yourself to fit your pigeonhole in society, right? And you, do you dress the same on Saturday afternoon as you do for church on Sunday morning? You hope not. So why not?
It's an appropriate way to do
It's
it.
the presence for the occasion, how you present yourself.
How you present yourself. Okay. Now, why does he call it preparing a face to meet faces?
Putting on something else to make someone happy.
You're putting on something else to make someone happy. Yes. To get people to respond to you in a certain way, you put on a face, right? You're not putting on, it's put on. It is a mask, which is a big deal at this time in poetry and literature. You're wearing a mask. Is it the real you? Well, if it's the real you, why aren't you dressing on Sunday morning the way you do on Saturday afternoon? Why does it look different? So you make a face, or you put on a face to meet the faces. You're not meeting the real person. Then he says, there will be time to murder and create. Same sort of thing. If you put on a mask, in a certain sense, you have murdered another part of you. You've killed off another part of you. So the real you isn't coming through, right? So to murder and create, time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Now, in the the sawdust restaurants and with oyster shells. In this restaurant, the oyster bar, right? Are they going to lift and drop something on your plate? No. Are you going to take toast and tea in the oyster bar? That's the dot. No, it's going to be, here are your oysters, right? Right, that kind of thing. So In the room, the women come and go talking of Michelangelo. Any ideas of where they're going? No ideas yet. Where this going? Yes, say it, say it, say it.
I was gonna say it sounds prostitutes.
Pardon?
I was gonna say it sounds prostitutes, but.
Do prostitutes talk about Michelangelo?
No.
I feel like they're going from like a disgusting part of London to wherever the rich people are.
Yes, they're going to a salon. You know actually where they're
Okay.
going? Yes, they're going to a salon, which, although you know, you're kind of right about the prostitute part. But they're not prostitutes. No, not prostitutes, but kind of. In a sense, what he's saying is we're all kind of, it's all kind of fake and like prostitutes because none of the people are real, even though basically where we're going is, if you go all the way back to the beginning of the semester, remember the rape of the lock? We're going to sit in a very polite living room and we're going to talk about great art and we're going to be so pleased with ourselves because we sit at Carpe Diem, right? You know what Carpe Diem is? Or Mocha's, and we're going to think great thoughts and talk about great literature and Michael. But it doesn't mean anything, and I'll tell you why it means nothing to them because next time, because we're out of time today. But I want you to finish this